Yeah.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here on a afternoon. And as you know, today we have with us Ayush Rathi, who is a cloud architect, developer, UI designer, and trainer. He has an experience in bringing application and cloud services to life. He is interested in creating the next generation of apps and user experiences that put customer value first, and he's focused on evolving design into pixel effect dynamic user interface using the best available techniques. Ayush holds a Limca Book of World Record for being the youngest computer engineer in the world in the year 2000 for assembling the computer, loading and operating the software at the age of 7. So today he's going to be talking to you about Azure and everything. So I hand over the virtual stage to you, Ayush. Thank you for coming on the afternoon today.
Thanks, Anamika. Hey, hi everybody. How are you all? Just a quick check if you all can hear me loud and clear.
You're audible.
Perfect. Just give me a sec, and we will be just getting started onto the Azure App Service and stuff. So I hope you can see my screen. Just a
Yes,
quick
your
check.
screen is visible. Yeah.
Perfect. So hi everybody. I am Ayush, and welcome to the Azure DevDay Hyderabad. So little about me, as Anamika already talked about, I'm an Azure Developer Community lead, also working as senior engineering manager with Walmart. Um, have conducted a lot of community events on cloud as well as trained a lot of folks on cloud. So today we're going to talk about the Azure App Service and also how do the app service deployment work along with GitHub. Setting up the agenda, so we're going to talk about the overview of the Azure App Services. We'll be talking about what App Service Plan is, and also we'll be talking about the Azure App Service in action, where we will be actually looking at deploying the Azure App Service on GitHub, leveraging the integration of app services and GitHub release pipelines. Now, before really I get into what Azure App Service is, how many of you are aware with what platform as a service is? How many of you are aware with what platform as a service is? Okay, so primarily, if I talk about the platform as a service, it's basically helping you as a developer to have a ready to use environment where you can design the applications, you can scale the applications. And primarily, as a developer, most of you may not want to get into the infrastructure level complexities. And that is where primarily we have got the platform as a service offerings available. And there are a bunch of platform as a service offering available on Azure. That does include app services. We have got Kubernetes, we have got container instances, and whole lot of bunch of around different platform as a service, right from starting with our web applications to logic apps to you thinking about IoT or next gen AI or machine learning or data sciences. We have got whole lot of different services available out there. So primarily, we're going to talk about the Azure App Service, where we are going to deal with deploying a web application onto the Azure portal. So if you have ever thought of having your website up and running, and probably most of you are kind of college students where you are going to have your minor or major projects coming in, where you would want to kind of go ahead, host an application. So either you can kind of go ahead, purchase a web server from somewhere and then host your application, or it could just be running on your local machines. Another is where industry is moving towards is having all of your applications running on the cloud. So that's where Azure App Service could be a good bet, could be a good choice, where all of you can go ahead and deploy your applications even on the Azure App Service and have it as a part of your minor or major project. So App Service is basically a PaaS offering, helping you enable to build scalable applications, as well as you can deploy applications leveraging different platforms. Now, what are the benefits of the Azure App Service? So, in terms of benefit, I have got multiple languages, I have got multiple frameworks to choose from. So, I have got wide variety of offerings. So, it is not at all that I am actually leveraging a product built by Microsoft. So, I have been mandated to make use of languages or frameworks which are built by Microsoft, something like .NET or C Sharp. That's nothing like it. You can go ahead. Feel free to use your own choice of language. It could be .NET, it could be Python, it could be JavaScript, Next.js, or PHP, Golang, Ruby, whatever you want. You can use your own choice of language, your own choice of tech stack, your own choice of framework, and leverage the Azure App Service for the deployment. It does help you integrate your application with other SaaS platforms as well as on-premises. So if I want to integrate some third-party software as a service applications or platforms with Azure App Service, or even your on-premises application, that's pretty much possible. So you can integrate applications like Twilio or Office 365 with the Azure App Service as well. There are wide variety of templates already available. So you would have all heard about WordPress, and probably most of you also would be kind of having your blogs if you are a blogger running them on WordPress. So in general, if I have to go with the WordPress deployment, I kind of have to set up my own web server. I have to download the WordPress zip from the WordPress.org. I kind of unzip that. I upload that file via FTP to my server, and then I have to kind of also configure in a database separately, and then actually the installation of the WordPress begins. But with Azure App Service, you have got wide variety of templates already available, so we have an offering of directly deploying your WordPress application. So it's just like by the time you have your cup of coffee, your WordPress application is actually up and running. So that's the beauty of the Azure App Service. And as a developer, it also helps you in terms of debugging your application. So you can integrate this with Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, which is going to in turn help you debug your applications at a scale. And this does support Visual Studio versions 2017, 2019, as well as 2022 version. Another thing that we talk about is highly scalable applications. Very, very important when we talk in context of cloud and when we talk about all of our today's modern application architecture. Scalability plays a very, very, very important role. You would have either done an e-commerce shopping where you would have got an experience of being one of the consumers or end users across millions or billions of people purchasing the product from that website at the same time and being able to grab that product quickly. I'm pretty sure most of you would have tried to kind of do an online shopping, specifically during Flipkart Big Billion Days or Amazon Great Indian Festival. And you would be sitting right there at midnight when the application actually goes live and you want to actually grab a product before it actually goes out of stock. Pretty much iPhone being sold at a very, very low price. Now, how is it that a lot of people are able to hit that application at the same time and application still is able to respond? That's all because of this single factor that we talk about, which is scalability. Similarly, if you kind of look at the cricket match that you watch on Hotstar, you would have seen we have more than close to 1.5 CR plus people watching out the cricket match live. And pretty much most of us would remember that number of 1.4 CR or 1.5 CR people watching it live. What's again behind the scene helping those many customers watch it? It is actually the scalability factor. So you get both. You get the horizontal scale functionality. You also get the vertical scale functionality, where we talk about either you go ahead and you can basically scale in or out. You can go ahead, you can either scale up or down. So it does allow you to perform both the operations. And then your applications can run across any platform, any device, which means all my applications can run across iOS, Android, it could be Windows devices, it could be any handheld tablet or palm top desktop, because these are simple web applications which are capable of running across all devices. So these are some of the benefits that you get with the Azure App Service in place. Now, talking about different types of application as part of app service. So what primarily we are going to deal with today is actually the web applications, which are in general your websites that day in, day out you guys might be using. Another is the mobile applications that we have. These are pretty much the mobile backends. As an example, let's say if I'm using Facebook and I go and like a photo. So when I like that picture, what I usually do is when I click on that like button in front of my eyes, I'm actually seeing the increment of a number in terms of like, but behind the scene, there is a mobile backend code running. So you can actually use Azure to host all of those mobile backends. Then you can create your own API applications where you can have your RESTful APIs. Something like when you try to order food from Zomato or Swiggy, when you try to book in cab from, let's say, Go Taxi or Ola or Uber, you would have actually seen the map inside those applications where you're pretty much able to track where the cab currently is or where your delivery person is currently. Now, what basically allows you to see that? That's where you would have seen it's actually Google Maps integrated into those applications, where Google Maps has provided an API for these applications to leverage that. So that is where you can also build API applications. For people who want to run away from code, don't like coding, we have got logic applications where you can integrate systems and data without writing the code. So it's more of like you creating a PowerPoint presentation, dragging and dropping different components to create application. That's where we have got the logic applications where you have different actors, different connectors, and then you create connection between them to kind of create a seamless logic. So these are the different types of applications which fall under the category of the app service. And primarily what we are going to today deal with is the web apps. As I mentioned earlier, you've got a whole lot of bunch of different app design options, right? From .NET to Node.js to PHP to Python to XHTML, CSS, JavaScript, and a lot more. So you can use any of these to design and develop your application and host it on Azure. Now let's dive into deploying the web apps. So as part of this, we're going to talk about something called as app service plan. Now, as I said, this is a platform as a service, which means I'm going to pretty much not be worried about my underlying infrastructure. But what is it that's going to provide me the infrastructure which is required to run these applications? That's where comes the app service plan, which is going to give you the infrastructure which is required to run your application. So some of the points that you need to understand: I can host multiple applications in a single service plan. So which means I basically create one plan, and this plan, which is basically an app service plan, is going to allow me to share the underlying resources that it provides me between my multiple web applications. So let's say this is a web application one, this is a web application two, this is a web application three, four, five. So all of these five applications are going to share the resources which are provided by this app service plan. And this app service plan is what provides you whether you need a storage or you need a memory or the underlying vCPUs that we talk about or the cores that you talk about. This is represented in the form of another thing called as ACU, which is Azure's own way of representing the compute, which is Azure Compute Units. So your applications, all of these apps that I talked about, these are going to share a common app service plan. They all gonna be leveraging a same subscription. Now, subscription in Azure is something to which all your costing will be tied to. Subscription is responsible for your costing. All of these applications will be deployed in the same region, which is going to be similar to app service plan. Now, when you're using cloud, you get that luxury to be in any part of the world and deploy your application in rest of the other parts of the world. So no matter we all sitting in India, we want to deploy an application running in Singapore data center or a US data center, Azure gives you that flexibility. Azure has got more than 60 plus regions available in 140 plus countries. So that's the presence, huge presence that Microsoft Azure offers you. And then also Azure has a concept of resource group, which is more of a logical grouping of resources. So you basically create a group. You can think of it like a folder structure where I am going to have all the resources, all the services corresponding to my application placed inside this resource group. So that's how the app service plan is going to work. And I can pretty much create multiple app service plans. So just like how I can create multiple virtual machines, in a very same fashion I can create multiple app service plan. It could be one is acting for production, another is being used for test environment, another is being used for dev environment, and so on and so forth. Now there are different types of app service plan available. So it's like when you go out to purchase a Netflix subscription, you get different Netflix offerings, right? So in a very pretty much same fashion, when you go out to purchase an app service plan, you actually get a lot of different pricing options, and you can pick up one of the pricing options depending on your choice. So starting with free plan, moving on to shared, basic, standard, premium, and the isolated offering. Free basically comes in free for everyone, allows you to deploy up to 10 web applications, and it pretty much gives you 1 GB of storage, no other additional feature set. Shared gives you 100 app services to be deployed, 1 GB of storage, again, no additional feature set. Basic on top of free and shared is going to give you 10 GB of storage. So you can see as and when you're moving from one plan to another, your storage is actually increasing. Similarly, it allows you to deploy unlimited applications going forward in any plan. Auto scale option is not available in the basic plan, so it allows you to do a manual scaling up to 3 instances, which means I can run 3 instances of my application in parallel. Where let's say there are 100 people trying to visit your application, all of those 100 people will get their requests distributed between these 3 services. So that way, load balancing is again something which automatically Azure is going to do for you. Then we have got the standard plan, again gives you 50 GB of storage on top of basic where you were just having 10 GB. It does support automatic scaling, which means you can deploy rules to automatically add more number of underlying systems, underlying instances where the traffic actually can be distributed. So it allows you to go up to all the way 10 instances. So likewise, I can have 10 instances of my application running in parallel, and so on and so forth. We have got premium as well as isolated plan. Again, if you look at the numbers, gonna increase in terms of disk space, in terms of auto scale capability, in terms of some of the feature offerings. So moving on, we did talk on something about scale up and scale out. So scale up and scale out is basically where we talk about the vertical scaling. And again, when we talk about so scale up is where you can actually do up as well as down both. And scale out is where you can actually do in as well as out both. So the up and down part that I'm talking about is actually the vertical, and the in and out that I'm talking about is actually the horizontal scaling. And this is something which you usually try to do automatically. So we in general don't do this vertical scaling automatically. This usually you will keep it manual. A primary reason being, a lot of times when you do vertical scaling, it can lead to a small amount of downtime for your systems. So as a result, you don't always prefer going ahead and doing the vertical scaling. So horizontal scaling is where you can actually configure some custom auto scale rule. It could be as simple as, if my percentage CPU is greater than 75%, I may want to add one more instances. So you can actually go ahead, define those kind of rules, which is going to actually help you add more systems to your existing set of resources. Up and down is again where you can simply move from one plan to another. So I talked about all of these different plans, right? So if you move from free to share, or share to basic, or basic to standard, this is where you are scaling up. Scaling down means moving from a higher pricing tier to a lower pricing tier. So it is as simple as, let's say today you own an iPhone 12 and you downgrade from iPhone 12 to iPhone 11. That would be called as a scale down. And if I say you upgrade yourself from iPhone 12 to iPhone 14, that would be treated as a scale up, where you're trying to actually change the complete underlying infrastructure that you have got with the application. So let's jump onto a demonstration of the Azure App Service, where we are going to look at how to deploy app service leveraging the GitHub. So guys, this is where I am on the Azure portal, and let's get started with creating the Azure App Service. I'm not really sure how many of you have seen the Azure portal earlier, but this is how the Azure portal looks like. So just like how in AWS you have an AWS console, in GCP you have a GCP console or dashboard. In the very same fashion, when you log into the Azure portal, you basically see this kind of UI. So it could be either this dashboard that you see, or it could either be this home screen that you would land onto while you log in into the Azure portal. A quick overview of this portal. So you can see all the favorite services listed right over here, in terms of all the popular Azure services. So whether it is all resources, resource groups, or very popular services like App Service, Function Application, SQL DB, or Cosmos DB, all of these different applications are available right over here. All services is where you're gonna mostly be able to look at all the 160, 180 plus services that Azure has to offer you. So you can see Azure has wide portfolio of services, right from general category to compute to networking, where you see networking offerings, to storage, to web, mobile, containers, databases, and as I mentioned earlier, AI and machine learning, IoT, mixed reality integration. So a whole lot of bunch of services around each of these specific areas that you get to see. This is a dashboard which is pretty much configurable. So you all can configure this dashboard depending on how you want the look and feel of the dashboard to be. This is the home screen where again this is more of like showing you the recently visited resources, some of the quick links to services that you might have recently visited. You can navigate to some of the links like subscriptions, resource groups, all resources dashboard, and some of the pretty much useful links from Microsoft in terms of Microsoft Learn and Quick Start Center. And also we have got Azure mobile application available for iOS and Android. This is where you will be able to create a resource. That's what I am going to use to basically search for the web application that I'm going to create right now. So as part of this web app, we are going to leverage this offering called as App Service. So let's search for web app. And this is where I can see different marketplace offerings that Azure is basically giving me. So I'm going to go ahead and select this web application, and let us click on create to get started with the provisioning of the web app. Now, as you can see, this is where I'm on the basic blade, and it is going to ask me for a subscription. So this is where you can see I have a subscription, which is a pay as you go subscription, which means whatever I create, that's going to be charged onto my card. And then I'm going to create a resource group. So as I said, Azure has a concept of resource group where you can think of the resource group as a logical placeholder to hold all of your related resources for a solution together. So let's say I will create a resource group called as Azure DevDay Hyderabad-RG, and I'll give a web application name as Azure DevDay Hyderabad dot azure websites.net. So that's going to be the URL of my application that we are going to deploy right now. Now I have got a publish method. So when you're using the Azure App Service, you can bring in your code to Azure. If you want to go ahead with a container-based deployment, it does give you a choice of having a Docker container. So if I go to Docker container, you will see it now gives me an option to kind of put in the Docker container details, where you can fetch in the Docker container details from the Docker Hub or any other private or public registry. And also you can go ahead and deploy a static web application as well. So I'm going to go ahead with a code-based option, and I'm having different runtime stacks. So as I said, again, you've got a whole lot of bunch of different technology option, the tech stack option. So you can have .NET, Go, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. I'm going ahead with ASP.NET 4.8. And when I select ASP.NET, mandatorily the operating system has to be Windows here. It doesn't give me an option to select Linux. But while I try to go with, let's say, .NET 7, it will give me an option of Linux or Windows as well. I try to go with Java, that works both with Linux and Windows operating systems. So I'm going ahead with ASP.NET version 4.8, and this is where you get wide variety of selection of regions. So as I said, Azure has got global infrastructure, and if I just talk about the global infrastructure of Azure, it has got huge presence across the globe. If you just look at the geographies, we have got a whole lot of bunch of different geographies available out there where we have got huge presence of data center. Let's explore the globe. And just to let everybody know, there is an Azure data center coming up in Hyderabad very soon. That's something which is announced and yet to be available over there. So that's a work in progress. So this is the Azure global infrastructure, and I'm just going to change the view in a minute. So if you look at this, gives you a global map view of all the data centers that Azure has. And primarily, if I talk about India, this is where you can actually see the India data centers. So in India, we have got one in Chennai, which is South India data center. Then we have got one coming up in Hyderabad, which is your India South Central, and then one coming up in one already available in Pune. So if I just click on each of these, it gives you more insights into where the data center is. So Central India data center is in Pune. Then we have got this upcoming data center in Hyderabad, and then another one which is already available in Chennai. So this is basically the presence of Azure data centers in India. Apart from it, all the blue colored ones that you see, these are all depicting the Azure data centers. So again, this is another one in Singapore, which is Southeast Asia data center. Then we have got huge presence over here in Australia. Then you can see some of them in China and so on and so forth. Again, huge presence in Europe and then the rest of the US you can see. So that's the overall Azure global infrastructure. So that's again a good advantage of cloud where you sitting in India can deploy your application in any other part of the world where you can actually target audience from that part of the world where the audience in that part of the world is going to get a low latency response. So it's as simple as you sitting here in India want to create an e-commerce application where you're targeting customers from US and you're trying to sell some products which are more prominent to US audience, you can go ahead deploy your application in US data centers, which is in turn going to give your customers a benefit of having a low latency response. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and deploy this application in one of the India data centers, which is primarily going to be Central India. And then I'm going to create a new app service plan. So app service plan is what's going to give us the infrastructure. So let me call this as app service plan one. Now let's explore the pricing plans. So as I mentioned, there are different offerings, right? From free going to basic, then we have got shared, right? So free, shared, basic, standard, premium. You've got a whole lot of bunch of those different offerings available over here. I'm just going to stick onto the standard S1 tier. So in each of these tiers, apart from free and shared, again, you will see 2 to 3 different offerings. So like in basic, I have B1, B2, B3. The primary difference between the basic B1, B2, B3 is going to be the difference in terms of the underlying vCPUs and the memory that it offers you. So primarily only the compute is the major difference. And you can see the standard S1 plan basically gives me a costing of 3,783 INR per month. So that's going to be the cost per month when you deploy this plan. And this plan is capable of running multiple web applications. So let's go ahead and select this. Next, I'm moving on to deployment. I'm just going to keep this to disabled right now. Once my application is up and running, we'll go ahead and configure some of the deployment configuration options. On the networking, by default, my application is accessible across all the public networks. On the monitoring, if you need to enable a service like application insights, which can give you an application performance management kind of service where you can get more details into different performance anomalies. It could be different page views. You want to get more insights into how your application is functioning. That's where you can enable the application insights. I'm just keeping it to disabled for now and moving on to tags. And let's go ahead and review and create this app service. So it does a validation. It checks for all the inputs that you have provided are good enough. And once that is validated, I can click on create, where it goes ahead, initiates the deployment. It submits the deployment, and you will see it will start the deployment. So the deployment is in progress. And within few minutes, our web application actually will be deployed. So you can see the beauty of this platform as a service where I did not have to actually get into an infrastructure virtual machine provisioning, wherein otherwise I would have to log into that virtual machine. I would have RDP'd into that VM, and then I would have spinned up my own web server. Could be a node server, could be a HTTP server, could be an IaaS web server, and then I would have to kind of open up few ports in order to go and deploy the application, and also worry about all the security of that virtual machine in terms of what data can go in, what data can come out. So you can see I'm pretty much out of all of that infrastructure level offerings and being able to have this application readily available for me. So this is where our application is up and running, which is Azure DevDay Hyderabad. And this is the domain of the application. So as I said, when the application will be created, the application is going to have a default URL. So it's like when you have to go to Google, you kind of just hit the domain google.com. In the very same fashion, when you create an application, Azure gives you a default domain, which is followed by .azurewebsites.net. So if I try to currently hit this URL, this is going to take you to a page where you will see a Microsoft default web page where it says your web application is running and waiting for your content. And if all the people sitting out there in the auditorium would want to go ahead and hit this, you all can actually do that. This is the URL of the application, guys. If you all try to currently go ahead, hit this URL out, you will be able to see this same default Microsoft web page. The URL is Azure DevDay Hyderabad .azurewebsites.net. That's the URL that our application has. Now we're going to look at how to actually go ahead and then deploy our own custom code to this Azure app service. So I'm going to actually make use of GitHub. I am assuming that most of you would be aware with GitHub. It is basically an open source distributed version control or source control system where either you can use it as a collaboration space to collaborate between the development work that you and your team or your colleagues are doing as part of one group. A lot of organizations today are using GitHub to have their code base available on GitHub and seamlessly share that code base between the team members and perform all of your commits or have a better management of your code repository. So I'm going to go to this deployment center. And in the deployment center, you can see I get different options of selecting the code source. So I have an option of GitHub, Bitbucket, local Git, Azure repos, external Git. I'm going to go ahead and select GitHub. Now this is where I have got my code available on GitHub under the URL, which is basically Azure DevDay Hyderabad. So this is a simple piece of code that I just published around half an hour ago onto this GitHub repository. And it just simply says hello from Azure DevDay Hyderabad, and is going to fetch in some images. So just simple heading tag and a p tag and an image tag. A simple HTML file is what we're going to use to deploy it on the Azure App Service. So I'm on the GitHub. Now, one important thing that I need to do here is I'm going to change the provider, and I am going to use a built-in app service build service. So this is where I'm using an app service build service, which is going to actually create an automated CI/CD pipeline for me. Now, I'm signed in already with my GitHub account on Azure. If you're using it for the very first time, it is going to ask you to sign into your GitHub account and authorize that account to be used here. Then I have organization. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and select the organization, which is nothing but my GitHub username. And then it is going to view and list all the different repositories that I've got in my GitHub account. So I'm just going to use this Azure DevDay Hyderabad GitHub repository. This is the same repository where we have got all our code base available. And then I'm going to select the branch, which is pretty much going to be main, where I have got all my code available. Once you have configured this setting, the next thing that you want to do is just save this, and it is going to basically create a deployment, and you will very soon see it is going to automatically fetch in all the code from GitHub and will deploy that code on the Azure App Service. So you can see it has started fetching the code from GitHub, and this code is soon going to actually be deployed. So deployment is successful. And now if I go ahead and I try to hit the URL over here, you can see it says hello from Azure DevDay Hyderabad. This is a demo application, and we just see a beautiful image of Charminar. So that's how seamlessly you can go ahead and do the deployment leveraging GitHub and Azure App Service and have your deployment of web application available. Another beauty of this deployment is the moment I make a change on this index file, let's say I go ahead and I try to edit this file and I say hello from Azure DevDay Hyderabad. It's 31st March, Friday. You will see this. I'm going to comment this. And the moment I make this change, you will see that Azure will automatically pick in the change that you have made onto the GitHub repository, and that change will automatically be deployed. So if I now go ahead and refresh this website, you can see it has automatically picked in that change, and this is how it has created a seamless continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline for you in terms of having your web application fetch always the latest code from your main or the master branch. So that's how, guys, you can leverage the Azure App Service, one of the very, very wonderful offerings from Microsoft, specifically on the platform as a service side, which gives you lot and lot of different features, lot and lot of different options in terms of having more control on the application. And in terms of scalability, I always have that option of scaling up and scaling out. So today I'm running on an S1 plan. Let's say I want to have a more better plan, which gives me more compute, which gives me more underlying storage. I can always scale down or I can scale up. So if I move from a standard S1 to, let's say, premium B1, or if I move from a standard S1 to basic B1, it's just a click away. I just click on select and I can downgrade my plan. And the beauty of this is it does not have an impact on your application. So it does not lead to any downtime for your application. If I go ahead, if I try to refresh my application is still live. Now, have it been a virtual machine, it would have restarted your VM. As a result, there would have been a small amount of downtime for your systems. And that is where you would have to go ahead with a multi instance machine, basically multi-instance application, where you would have at least created two virtual machines so that in case one goes down, my traffic could be distributed between the two. But with Azure App Service, I don't see any downtime whenever I'm scaling up and scaling down my systems. So that's another beauty of the Azure App Service. So That's basically about how we can go ahead, leverage the feature offerings from Azure in terms of the PaaS, how we have leveraged Azure App Service, integrated it with GitHub, and it has fetched in the code from GitHub and done the deployment. So the cloud is changing the world, guys, and so we are. I hope you all have enjoyed this session. With that, I would open up for any Q&A that you would have there in the auditorium. Probably if there are any Q&A, some of you can just get them from the students, put it up on the chat, and I will be more than happy to answer those.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, just like
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind insights on Azure. Now, so what we'll be doing is we will be talking around. I hope, guys, if you have any questions around app services, like how to deploy, so maybe these for these students, app services would be really useful because they make these portfolios and multiple things, right? So I guess that might be really useful for these students. And now I have Sarthak here with me. He'll be talking about Azure virtual machines and how to build a career in DevOps. So over to you.
And I guess there were some questions. I'm not sure if it is from Harsha or someone else. But probably Lakshit, you can collect these questions and we can pass on the answers to those questions again. I think some of them were calling out the voice was not clear. So
Okay, yeah, the voice is not there. Passing voice is not clear, but for me, it's very clear. Maybe their internet connections, or maybe it happens when you organize something for college perspective. I hope you can understand, sir.
perfect, perfect. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thanks a lot, guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your kind insights, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Rename to
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me today over here. I hope my voice is audible to you. Just guys give a heads up if my voice is audible. Just say yes or no over the chat if my voice is audible. Okay guys, so let's start the today's session. Today what we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about open source, we are going to talk about DevOps. We're going to talk about how you can start your cloud journey and how you can start your open source journey. Uh, I I guess we have one doubt. Can we make our existing website repo, which is GitHub, can directly connect with the Azure? Yeah, we can connect Azure directly with GitHub. That we can do. Okay. Slides. Okay, so before starting today's stream, talking about open source, let's talk about what is Azure Developer Community and what we are going to do. Okay, so Azure Developer Community is a unique upskilling platform which is for the young developers, which is for the working professionals to, uh, to make a place where both the young developers and working professionals can come together and collaborate and contribute to the community to to help them every each and everyone to grow. Like when we talk about today's session, so today we have usually I guess we have only students which were taught by Ayush sir recently. Again, that is something the beauty of the community is, where mentor is coming and teaching you something, helping you something, guiding you to get best out of the community. Okay, so what this is what we are. We are the community of 1 lakh plus developers. We are in 120 plus cities. We have almost 100 plus leads. Those are helping you, guiding you, mentoring you in India. We have 500 plus awesome speaker panel. We have these speakers who are working with in the organization like Microsoft, GitHub, okay, Lambda test and all. So today, what we are going to do today, we are going to talk about a bit about open source. Before starting, what is open source for you? Just drop the answer in the comments. Uh, what is open source for you guys? What do you mean by open source? When you talk about open source, what do you think that this is something you can relate with open source? Just drop a uh, note in the comment, guys. What do you think about open source? Yeah, open source is something which is open source is something when you start contributing to the open code, which is uh, you know uh, which is on GitHub or any such repo where it is available for each and everyone to go and contribute. Open source is something where the large amount, where a code base is available for the people to contribute to make build new features around that, to improve some features, to make new make the code project product more efficient than it is prior. Open source is something where you can collect your idea and put that into a software. You can modify, you can utilize that uh, you know that software, that product according to your way. That is something an open source is. Like when we talk about open source, let's take an example of a Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is something which you use on a daily basis when you code in any language. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is something, a product of Microsoft, that is owned by Microsoft, and that is an open source product. Uh, that is something you can go directly. You can go code about Visual Studio Code. You can go and Visual Studio Code is basically mainly majorly written in .NET framework and written in C sharp language. So if you know about C sharp, if you know about .NET, and if you are interested to contribute, if you're interested to solve the issue which Visual Studio Code have, then it's a great platform to be in and to solve the problem. That is something Visual Studio Code or this type of platform or open source project gives you. Let's talk about why open source. If everything is free, if you're not getting something out of it, why we are contributing to open source? See, when we talk about open source, so open source have a major, for an organization perspective, it's a thing where it's a platform where most of the developers like you, young mind people, come together. uh, they not only get the good resources, the good knowledge, but also get the good ideas to make their software more efficient and proficient. And also open source helps not your developers to these organizations to get good talent out of it. Interns, they get good interns, they get good employees out of it. So that is something an organization thinks whenever they open any project for open source. On a student perspective or a young developer perspective, when you contributed to an open source, that means what, that helps you to deep dive into the community. You understand the community a bit, you learn new things, you learn new languages, framework, you work on real life projects, you contribute uh, to real life projects, make good network, good connections with good people. You'll again the process, the loop starts. You go learn from these people, you go and get some good internship job opportunities out of there, you understand code more. Okay, that is something, if you're contributing to open source, that is something which is a differentiating factor for you. People understand your contribution, people recognize your contribution, you can mention your contribution in your resume, CV. It create a larger impact when you're doing something in a larger organizations. So that is something for open source. How to start with open source? Everyone think that open source is something where you go and code about a single language, or in a single language, or in a single framework. No, if you know about languages, if you know more about, if you only comfortable to contributing in the documentation, that you can do. If you're only comfortable in contributing, or contributing to a single language, you can do that too. If you're comfortable, to contributing that framework backhand, that you can do. That is something depends on you. If totally depends on you how you want to contribute. Let's know how to start. What you want to do is, you need to understand your passion, your area, your domain where you're working. Like if you're working with C++, if you're a first year student, second year students, and you are working on C++, totally means that means you can contribute to a project which is having C++ language embedded with it. So what you can do, you can go to the GitHub, type a repo, or search a repo which is using C++ language for coding, for programming. Go over there, see the issues. Every GitHub repository have the issues section with them. Click on issue section, you will see lots of issues which are already there. If you can solve that issue, that is awesome. If you can't, if you think that there are something else you want to do, if there's something else which you, if you have something else in your mind, or think that we can integrate or put some more, things in this feature in this app or product, that what you can do, you can generate a pull request where people can go and talk about this open source. So these are the some open source project which is given by the Microsoft, like Terminal. If you, I hope everyone use Terminal. I hope everyone use Visual Studio Code. We have PowerShell. We have .NET, which is open source and contributed, and most of the people are contributed. Let me give you the, one quick fact. Visual Studio Code is one of the highest, uh, a project which is having the highest number of contributors with them. So Visual Studio Code is something that, uh, when you talk about scope of contribution, scope of open source, it's very big. So something like that, open source is a very big domain, vast domain, where you can go contribute, learn, and not only learning but also getting good uh, job, internship, working with big startups opportunity. That is something you can do with open source. um, any question, any doubt, if you have, you can ask in the comment section. I'll wait for next 2 minutes to resume. This is the meme which I use when I see open source, when I want to depict the open source um, scope, how big open source is. So this is something happy palaver business. If anyone of you can understand English or see the movie Welcome, then you can relate to that meme. Yeah. Any question, any doubt, if you guys have, you guys can ask. Okay, guys, I hope we are streaming this in an auditorium of Anurag University. Guys, it's a request. If you have any doubt, just you can open the YouTube, drop your question so that we can answer your question easily. Is there any open source development to get started? Or see, when you're a student, you can start with open source. That is for sure. First thing. Uh, Development. You want to check with the development project. If you're talking about a development project, yes, there are too many development projects. There are too many projects which are available over GitHub to contribute as an open source project. Yeah, it is available. You can go and contribute, start a contribution from today. How to contribute is something. Just go to that organization. If let us suppose you want to contribute to Microsoft, if you know about the tech stack, go to Microsoft GitHub repository, check the issues, check the features, check the product. Uh, okay, try to understand that product thoroughly so that you can you are able to contribute. Check the issues. If you are able to resolve that issue, then no issue. It's a great work to do. Check the issues. If you are able to solve that issue, what you can need to do now, you need to put you need to write a explanation with a code or with the changes you want to make. Okay, then push that issues over the GitHub. That is something, the first way to contribute in a single project. First you need to understand the project in the way you want to be. To understand the project is first. Second thing is that contribute according to your need, according to the way you want. Okay, the mindset you have. Think about what type of features you can include or what sort of issue you can solve. That is something you need to do. Okay, guys. So what we are going to do is we are going to talk about DevOps a bit, so that you DevOps and cloud a bit. How many of you know about you know Azure or Azure Cloud? How many of you are aware that there are Azure certifications which you can go and learn from the Azure certification and grab the certificate from Microsoft Azure? How many of you know that? Just type a yes or no if you can. Okay, before starting, let me show you the Azure portal, how it's look like, how what is cloud. Just give me a minute so that I can show you. This is how the Azure portal look like. What you need to do, you only need to go to portal.azure.com, go and log in with your student ID if you have. When you log in with your student ID, it wants your student ID card, and just give that and you'll get $200 credit. That is one thing you can do. If you are not a student, if you're a working professional, then you need to attach uh, a credit card or a debit card. It will charge you 2 or 3 rupees max, and you will get the access of this portal for so long. I think till 15,000 rupees credit vouchers you have. That is something you can do. Okay, so first thing is this key. When we talk about cloud to cloud, what is cloud? Cloud is something where you can go, put your website, help your website to manage, scale your website. Auto scale is something cloud a feature you have. Let's talk about something like, I hope everyone have used or everyone have watched Hotstar. So when we talk about Hotstar, what is Hotstar? Hotstar is something uh, OTT platform where you see cricket matches, where you see movies, where you see web series and all. Recently, we go through one issue. We celebrate one success story of Hotstar. What was that? Hotstar started when Virat Kohli came to the pitch. So what happened is the 50 lakh audience converted directly to 1.5 crore audience. So we see a growth of 2x in the audience viewers, live viewers when Virat came into the match. But see, that is not something we are going to discuss today. That is something how this is done as a tech perspective. What was happen in the background? Let us suppose you have an let's take an example. You have a home. In that home, you have an office. In that office, only 4 or 5 people can sit. 4 people minimum and 5 people maximum can sit. Let us imagine if you have a meeting and the client and clients are coming, and clients are also coming at your office. Now what you need to do, you need to scale that office, or you need to buy more chair and table so that they can also sit. You expected that 5 people will came from outside and you need only 10 chairs. But what was happened? Uh, there are 20 odd people those who are coming in your office that day. Now you don't have chair. Now they can sit. They can't sit. They can't. They can't sit. So what would happen is, your image will be down. So what the solution we have is, suppose let's if which is cost efficient as well. If possible, what would happen is, if 20 people are coming, automatically you will get the chairs for 20 people. If 5 people are coming, automatically you will get the chairs for 5 people automatically. So that is the power cloud give. It's known as auto scaling. Auto scaling is something like, if you are using this cloud resource, if you are using Azure cloud, and if you want to scale website for 40 people to 100 people, it will scale in a second or minute. That is something, a feature which Azure or any cloud gives you. So cloud is a platform where you can go host your website. Again, I'm saying this: host, not only hosting, store the content of your website. Okay, scale your website, help your website to improve, make it fast. That is something cloud gives you. When we talk about cloud, the cloud have all the domains embedded with him. Let us talk about services which cloud offer. So if you can see, it offer services from AIML domain, from analytics domain, from compute domain. Compute is something, a compute domain where we have virtual machines and all. It can help you to have the container domain, to, like, if you heard about Kubernetes, if you heard about Docker, if you heard about service fabric, that is something which comes under the umbrella of containers. It cloud offers you database. Cloud offers you a service for a DevOps methodology. That is cloud provide you all the journal services as well. Subscription, how, where you can check your subscription, where you cloud provide you the place where you manage your all the services with one, like resource group is something they provide you. They provide you hybrid multi-cloud system, and number of services provides. All the domains they provide: IoT, mixed reality, migration, security, networking, everything cloud provides you. That is something the beauty of cloud have. uh, okay. So cloud providing all these things. So how to learn cloud? I hope everyone, those who are listening me today, are from second year or third year, and these people know about operating system and networking. So let us suppose you know about operating system. Let us suppose you know about networking. Then you are good to go, or start your cloud journey. That is the first and most. That is the first step you need to take when you think about to start your cloud journey. Okay, so networking on our operating system. Those who are in first year, try to learn networking and operating system, at least basics of networking and operating system. Also use Linux to better understanding, and it hardly takes 15 to 20 days to learn these both domain from a very basic perspective. So you can learn these domains and you can start your journey with cloud. Okay, now you have one question. we have started our cloud journey. How to start? What is the second step to start the cloud journey? Okay, certification path is something where you can go and explore about Microsoft certification. So these certification help you to put some awesome impact in your over your resume. Like we have almost we have lots of certification for lots of various developer post or developer designation in the industry. Like when you if you want to be an administrator, if you want to be an AI engineer, so you can take this certification pathway. If you want to be an administrator, you can take this data analytics, you take this DevOps engineer. If you want to be, take this data engineer, data scientist, app maker, business user, whatever you want to be in or whatever domain you love, try to explore that part. Let us suppose I want to be a developer. So for developer, I have 57 certifications which are available over here. That is the beauty of the certifications we have. Now, what you can do is you can prepare or start your certification journey with this website. I'll share you the link so that you can go and explore about that. Okay. Okay, so AZ 900 is a basic level certification which you need to complete before doing any other certification in Microsoft Azure. So then what you can do is you can choose AZ 104, 204. So what would happen is whenever you start with the certification exam, whenever you open this portal, what you will see 104. Like I want to be an solution architect. There is one certification, Azure Administrator Associate, AZ9104, that you need to clear before doing this. Okay. What you can now see over this website, if you choose 104 certification, it's an associate level certificate. It will tell you, it will share you all the details about certification. It will share you all the skills which are required to clear the certification. It will also help you to understand which role certification it is. It's an administrator role certification, which basically is. So if you talk about self-paced learning, so you have a complete learning part where you start with very basics, prerequisites of Azure administrator, manage identity and governance and Azure. So everything will be there. You can go and follow the learning path and learn more about Azure. Okay, then there is an exam which you can give if you want to give and grab the certification. If you don't want to give, there are few exams like 900 exams are there, easy 900. So all the fundamentals are free for the students, so you can go and register yourself on these fundamental exams so that you can get a better understanding out of it. Okay, that is something you can do. Is first is your upskilling, your starting of cloud, or how to start. Me again. I am repeating. Need to learn OS and networking on the first case. Second case, try to learn more about certification. Try to learn and give at least one or two certification for a better understanding of cloud. Easy 900 is a basic certification. If you want to be an AI engineer, AI 900, data engineer, DP 900, these are the certification which you will get over the website and go learn about that. Everything is free over here. That is one thing you can do. Any question, guys? If you have, please ask. I hope everyone uses. I want to talk about a bit about OpenAI because that is something a new thing in the market. Not only the new thing, but one of the renowned functionality or a service which Microsoft soon open and talk about that. So OpenAI is something. If you heard about Chat GPT 3, Chat GPT 3, GPT 4, now GPT 4 arises come. If you want to use, you can use Bing. If you use Bing, then you can understand the power of GPT 4. That is something you can use if you want to use that. So OpenAI, a company which has contributed with Microsoft. Now, if you see this Microsoft platform, Azure platform. Soon you will see all the services which you see today. We have talked about today. You can go and integrate that service with you. That is something OpenAI powers gives you. So first thing is this: everyone uses Chat GPT. Everyone using the Dale. Everyone. How many of you using Copilot? If you are a developer and not using Copilot, then you are doing something good. Okay, so Copilot is something which helps you to write the code, which helps you write the code efficiently, easily. That is something Copilot gives you a functionality to write all these things in a very easy manner. It helps you. It helps you to improve the code efficiency. Copilot provide you the platform where if you have any problem, if you want to know more about, if you want to solve any problem statement, then you just need to write a prompt, and Copilot gives you that code. Can you suggest an intermediate level of Azure certificate? Yeah. When we talk about Azure certification, in Azure certification, associate level is the middle intermediate level, where 204, 104 is coming. So you can give any of them. 204, it's a developer associate. 104, it's an Azure associate. Okay, AI we have 102, I guess. Yeah, AI is there. Azure AI engineer associate. If you're into AI, then you can learn this, certification. So that is something Azure give you. Any other doubt? Any question? No. Okay, that is something about certification. Do starting certification. Let's if you have any question regarding Azure portal, because अगर वो ही नहीं खुलेगा Azure portal कभी तो certification कभी नहीं होगा. If you have any question regarding Azure portal, you can ask. We'll have a demo in next session where we are learning any single service from very scratch. Before that, if you want to ask anything, you can. There were many services offered by Microsoft. I guess all the services which Microsoft offers are very good, very helpful in nature. When we talk about most, cognitive DevOps is something which is used by Microsoft, which is used by industry most. Cognitive, Azure Cognitive Service and Azure DevOps Service. So today we talk about how you can master Azure certifications, how you can start with Azure certifications, how you can start your cloud journey. Okay, what is open source, why open source, and for what reason you are contributing to open source. I guess that is all for this session. I am here for next 2 minutes as well. If you have any other doubt, I'm very happy to resolve that or solve that. Okay, do we have any doubt, guys? I'm sharing you the portal link. What you can do, you can go and use this portal. Also, the certification portal link. If you have any question after that too, you can use this. See, names are different. When we talk about Microsoft Azure and AWS, see when we talk about AWS, so in AWS we see instance, and AWS in Azure we see we use word virtual machine. So concepts are same, networking operating system concepts are same, just the names are different. That is, there is no SS different for the students. Okay, they get both the platform for in over their student ID or in 2 or 3 rupees. That is something they get. Uh, both have a good. Both platform are very efficient. Have their skills to scale the app on a faster basis. So both are same. Names are different. So names are different. Services are almost same. Any more doubts? Okay, guys. So let's have a quick demo. I got a request. What we'll do, we'll make a virtual machine like we make in AWS. AWS we say instance. So Dikshit, your problem will have a practical solution. Let me share my screen so that you can see that yes, both the platform are almost same, identical. So see, when we talk about Azure, so we have Azure. When we open our portal, it's something looks like this. You need to click on virtual machine. What you need to do, you need to create a virtual machine. When you click on create virtual machine, so it gives you four different options. One is Azure virtual machine, create a now Azure virtual machine. Second is with uh, there are some preset configuration which Azure gives you. It's something like a template you get. So that is something. It's Azure VM solution machine. It's an VMware solution which provide a VMware solution. Azure Arc, which gives you non-Azure environment. On not only this, but you can set up multi-cloud architecture over that Azure Arc virtual machine. So we'll create a virtual machine, which is a simple Azure virtual machine. Over this, what you will see first, first you need to talk about your subscription. Let us suppose you are using, so what you can do, you can use multiple subscription over one ID that Power Azure gives you. So what you need to do, you need to click on subscription. As I'm using free trial, so I'll use free trial. Okay, now I'll you need to give a resource group. If you have the resource group already, then click on resource group. Otherwise, create a new resource group. Suppose now what would happen, you need to give the instance details. Suppose I want to name the instance by Sarthak Jain. So I had named this instance by Sarthak Jain. Now I have to select the reasons. Like I want this instance to be there in my country only, in India only. So what I choose Asia Pacific and Central India. So that I choose. Now I can choose my availability zone, how many zones I need to put this data. Suppose I want to put data in one zone only, so I'll put one data one zone only. If I need to want to put data in all the three zones, then I'll select all the three zones. Not only selecting three zones, but it also increase your cost. So select only one zone. So there are availability option. Okay, so what you can do, you can select the any one of them. Now what would happen is you can choose the security type. After security choosing security type, what you can do is, now what you need to do is you need to create select the image or the operating system you want to use. Suppose you want to use Linux, you want to use Oracle, you want to use Debian, you can use. If you want to use Windows, that you can use. There are ample amount of images which are available. You can use any of them. Okay, you can use any of them. So let us suppose I'll use Ubuntu only. We can set the VM architecture. What type of architecture we want? I want the 64-bit architecture. That is something. Okay, I can choose the memory. I can choose how many CPU I want, how many memory I want, how many GPU I want. So that is I can choose. Okay, I can protect my account with two types: SSH password key and and password. Password something which you write normally, login ID and password type. SSH password key, public key is something like when you make your virtual machine, you will get a key which you need to enter again and again when you access your this account. Now you need to enter your username. You need to what you need to do if I choose password. So I need to enter my username. Suppose my username is dot sarthak. Password is, I'll not tell you. Sorry. Yeah. So I'll choose the password. Now this is something a networking concept is. I want a public inbound output port. If yes, then allow the selected port. That is something you can do. It's a very simple process you need to do. Now there are the disk type, OS disk size, how many, what type of disk you want, hard disk you want. So this is something SSD you can see, SDD you can see. So it totally depends on you which type of disk you want. Okay, again, networking concepts are there, so you can see um, subnet what you want to be make the subnet. Okay, you can see your IP, you can see the font in mount port. If you want to change this port, you can also change that. That is not a big issue. Let's talk about management. If you want to use any other service around that, you can use this Azure AD. You can use this Azure AD is Azure Active Directory, which you can collab with your virtual machine. This virtual machine you can automatically shut down as well. If you enable this, then if your virtual machine is you know it's not in use for 1 or 2 or 3 hours, then it will automatically shut down that machine. It is also helping you to back up the data. If you choose enable backup, so automatically if one data center goes down, there are two remaining data centers which can help you to give your data. So that is something this service is important. It's help you to get the data. Now monitoring is something which helps you to understand more about your system. Like if I make a website, I host that on Azure. Now I need to check the website is running well, the traffic is coming well, or the traffic is facing problem when they come on a very large number. So that is something we monitor, we do. Okay, now I don't want advance is something which is not in your use. Tag is something which, suppose my name is Sarthak, and my value is, suppose I give a random value 1342. How many resource we want, and in this resource, how what type of service, public IP milegi, disk will be there, availability list will be there, to shut down will be there, network interface, network security, so everything will be there. Now आगे बढ़ेंगे and create this resource group. Now you can see the pricing, the order which we have given. So you can see each and everything. So what type of services and all these things are they are given to you. Now you need to add your phone number, and that's all. You have an SSH port open to internet. Now what you need to do, you need to go to advanced tags that you can create and just create. Boom. Now what will happen? This helps you to create a virtual machine. You can see the virtual machine over here. We are creating the virtual machine. It's under the process. Yes, it's under the process. You can check the virtual machine now. Now click on create. Boom. Now it is, you can see this initializing deployment, and we are on the right track. So what you can do, what you can see is there is a deployment in progress button option. You can see now you will, over this, under this you will, after once we able to create the virtual machine, you can check that too. Okay, see, the virtual machine is created, status is okay, and all these things are okay. So this is something we have done. Okay, guys, any question you have? Any doubt? Any question? No. If you have any question, you can drop in the comments. That is something I want to tell you. I'll only showcase a small demo where you are creating a virtual machine. That is only I have tell you today. Okay, it's currently under the process. Once it's done, we can also use that. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you very much to be here. If you're listening, can we deploy an Android iOS app using Azure? Yeah, you can deploy the backend of that app and over Android and iOS. Backend you can deploy. Thank you for your presence, guys. Thank you for coming. That's all for this session. If you have any doubt, any question, you can uh, come to me anytime. My name is Sarthak Jain. I work at Reskilll, so you can check out our LinkedIn, Twitter. I guess in the recession period or after COVID, cloud engineers job increases. So that is something you can we make sure. Recession is something layoff hua hai, but it's equally like other engineers. So ऐसा कुछ as such there are not much impact on only on cloud developers. What are all the roles that can be expected? But cloud engineer, cloud support engineer, so every organization have cloud engineer, cloud support engineer. If you learn cloud and DevOps or DevOps engineer, cloud ops engineer, that you can be. Yeah, so that you can do. So thank you everyone. Thank you guys. Let's wind up this session. Uh, Bye.